God came to me and just ultimately, who's your idol? And in that moment, it was money. Money was my idol. Money was making me react the way I was reacting. The situation sucked, absolutely. But in that moment, it was because it was tied to money. And my heart was so attached to that. And in that moment, God made me realize, again, these are moments that happen along the way. And you have to be man enough and you have to be humble enough to admit stuff like that to yourself. And to me, that was that moment for me. And ever since then, I said, God, whatever comes of this situation, if this is how money's gonna make me react, then I'm not worthy of it to be a steward. If that's what it means and that's what it does and changes me as a person, then I'm not worthy of it. I can't be a steward of that. And I just had to have that conversation with myself and with God and sit there and think hard and long about it. And so what I would tell people is you're going to have losses, but those losses will not determine who you are as a person.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all. Experimentation. In this episode, you get to hear from an entrepreneur that built it the right way, but started off on the path that many of us start on. That's the path of what we know. 9 to 5. It's a career. And this gentleman was on very similar to some of my previous guests. We had Jesse Vasquez, who started in the healthcare industry, saw a need, and then created this midterm rental empire from there. This gentleman was a certified nurse assistant graduate, and he went into that. And there's always someone that will come into your life and plant the seed, and that's kind of the goal of this show, is to be able to plant the seed that can maybe take you to the well. And if you choose to pour in into yourself and go deep and take and seize an opportunity, then something good will come out of it on the other side. And it may not happen right away. You will be tested along the way. Serg Lupescu, who I had the pleasure of having on my platform, did get tested quite early. Being a one of 14 kids, getting cancer earlier on, having to deal with a lot of adversity, and him not wanting to feel like he was treated differently because of his illness in the beginning, led to him being very adamant about working on his personal development, which shows in and reflects in the episode the deep work that he's done. And he started in the residential assisted living facility, ended up starting his own, which was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath in 2018, and in 2026 now has a dozen of these and an 8-figure portfolio of these kind of residential assistant living facilities, which we call them, or what she calls them, and I'm looking at my notes here, non-medical, right? Non-medical facilities. And essentially he's buying businesses, but he's buying businesses in a model where he shows the economics of this model that shows that in the next 5 to 10 years, even as we speak, there is a shortage of about, I think he said, 1 million beds. And it's only going to get worse, which means that when there is low supply and high demand with the silver tsunami, baby boomers, there is a model on top of real estate, a business model, a true sound business model that's been around for decades that he's tapped into. And he has the upper hand and advantage. And you can too if you listen to this, but take action. It took him 8 years to build this. And when I speak to him, I hear a man, I hear a father who's very well been through the battles, even at one point being stolen from his business partner, stealing from him, learning a lot of how to deal with adversity and overcoming challenges, being patient, and at the same time being resilient to be able to embark on this journey that where he's at today, where he's having private equity knocking on his door, and he gets to say, "No, I won't sell until it's right, until I really seasoned it." And based on the assets that he's built, I know you truly will have the opportunity to have many exits, if not one, with a lot of private equity coming to do roll ups for these businesses who are looking for proven high cash flowing business models. So without further ado, I want to welcome Serg Lupescu to our lab. Um, he was Serge Lupescu was very much a true testament of what an entrepreneur is, and it begs the question that if you're on your path and you feel like you're having you know a tribulation, you're being tested, maybe it's because it has to work on you before the work is ready to work for you. And in this episode, Serge shows us how he's able to make it work for himself, but also plants the seed so maybe this residential assisted living niche can also work in your lab. Enjoy. So first of all, thanks for jumping on, brother. And I'm welcoming you officially. We're live. So Serge, thank you for coming on, man. I've been seeing a lot
Absolutely.
of what you're doing, and you're in well, let me ask you actually, because I was gonna put you in a box, which we don't like that. I was gonna say, you're in this niche and blah blah, but let's unpack it. You said something that is very interesting to me, and I want to start with the person first because I believe that the your business is a reflection of who you are, right?
Mhm.
Um, and you said something that jumped out to me, and I listen closely when I'm on the air with people who have wisdom like yourself, who have built something meaningful. You said I'm in a season, um, and I love that because I use that a lot too. I love being in seasons. I think there's a season for everything. I
Mhm.
think the whole people use work life balance and stuff, and I believe in having an integrated life, and then there's just different seasons, right? Um,
Mhm.
so tell me, what season are you in, right? First, right? The getting to new search, and then we'll kind of reverse engineer of how you tackled on an opportunity in a marketplace. And I always like to call business seasons as well. Some are in the business of acquisition, some are in the business of growing, some are in the business of liquidation, right? And so let's talk about your personal season, where you currently are in your life right now, how you feel about it. It's a brand new year, top of 2026, already February, like
Yep.
next week. What are you most excited about, Serge? And what season are you in? Let's start there.
So I'm coming off of a season where we just had some two large acquisitions and had a large cash out refi. Some really good wins.
Good
We
for you.
ended the year of 2025 strong, to say the least. And so coming into 2026, I'm coming into a season of slowing down,
Hmm. Okay,
and I
let's
know
unpack that.
it's counterintuitive to what the entrepreneur business world tells you. But to give some context of why I feel like I'm in this season right now and where I'm at mentally, in regards to the reason why I say that. So I started my first facility at 22 years old. So in 2018 is when I started my first facility. And so that's when I would say the start of entrepreneurship began for me,
Hmm.
right out of college. So I've been really at it for nonstop for 8 years. During the 8 years that I've been doing this, I've gotten married. I've had two kids. I have a third on the way.
Let's go.
So a lot's happened, in the 8 years of not just entrepreneurship, but personal, achievements and things like that along the way that require attention and effort and energy and all that stuff. All good things. Along the way, there were some harder things and some seasons where it was a lot more stressful and a lot more difficult,
Hmm.
from financial to other items like that. And so, as I come off this previous season of acquisition, growing, a couple solid wins. Going into 2026 after the holidays, yeah, I was just at a point where we weren't looking at any new deals. We didn't have anything in the pipeline. For the most part, everything in our portfolio stabilized, so there's not much for us to really do right now.
Mhm.
Um, and so it's just a time, I guess, to reflect and to appreciate and to take it in. And I'm enjoying it because we're already kind of looking at a potential new deal, and I know the next acquisition is going to be, we're going to go back into that busy season again, and acquisition mode and due diligence mode and all that goes into raising capital and partners and yeah, all that stuff, right? So I'm just soaking this in right now. I'm just enjoying this moment with my family. I get to really, I have these moments during the weekends when I'm at my son's soccer games and doing the things I want to, like I enjoy, like some hobbies and passions that I have, and just being able to enjoy the fruits of my labor essentially for these last 8 years. Not saying I'm like not going to continue growing and not continuing to do more acquisitions, but that's the current season that I'm in,
Yeah.
and I think that comes with maturity too. So.
Good for you. Good for you. It's so interesting because uh you said two things that stuck out to me, right? One's like, you said it's not your typical entrepreneurial kind of response or whatever. Why do you say that, and why do you think, is there maybe a misconception or perhaps misuse of energy and season that you're seeing, or are you referring to the grind culture, or like what do you
Mhm.
refer to? Because I feel like you're going somewhere with that.
Yeah, so I mean, online, everybody can attest to this. You go online and everybody's just crushing it. Everybody's doing something. Everybody's uh, constantly bagging in wins, and they're constantly hustling. They're constantly the 4 a.m. workout club. They're, you know,
So
stay up.
you're in other words, you're watching Sports Center highlights, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And so the misconception, I would say, and I think a lot of people see entrepreneurship as this 24/7 nonstop grind. And there are going to be times where that's certainly the case, especially when you're implementing systems and you're, having to wear multiple hats while you build out your team and while you're figuring things out. But again, that's not what life is just all about. And
Mm,
so that for me, that's the reason why I say that, is that everyone just thinks entrepreneurship is supposed to be this 24/7 grind. And one person that I really listen to consistently and have over the past, even before my entrepreneurship journey started, was Andy Frisella, and he's
oh
got
yeah, I
Powerless.
used to listen to that
Yeah.
podcast a lot, which
And
is interesting. Yeah, go ahead.
to pretty much like wrap kind of like, he has what he calls the power list, right? So it's the five
Mm,
critical tasks of the day. And he will even attest, and he's a very successful entrepreneur for anybody that looks him up and looks at what he's done and what he's currently doing. But he always says, once those five critical tasks that have moved the needle for you in your business, what you choose to do with the remaining of the rest of your day, you can continue to choose to work more, or you can just go
mm,
continue to go enjoy time with your family, go enjoy time doing the things you want to do. If you get all your five critical tasks done by 12 p.m., you got the rest of the day, go do whatever it is you want to do.
yeah.
Life is meant to also be lived. It's not just meant I mean, if people want to think entrepreneurship is supposed to be a 24/7 grind, dude, that's more miserable than a 9 to 5, in my
Ooh,
opinion.
yes.
And so again, the journey is what it's all about. And along the journey, you're going to have epiphanies and you're going to have realizations and you're going to have certain things that you realize, you know what, maybe I don't need to go do this hard all the time. Or you know what,
Mm,
maybe I do need to take a step back and maybe slow down and maybe take a moment to see what it is I'm trying to do, right? And it's, again, stepping 30,000 feet high above the forest. You can't see the forest when you're in it. So
mm,
when you're in it, you don't even realize that you're like constantly working and you're constantly and then you wonder why you're stressed, you wonder why you're overweight, you wonder why certain things start happening, certain things are falling through the cracks, and it's you know, you take a step back and you take a 30,000 foot view, and then you're like, oh wow, okay, I need to fix a couple things here. And some,
Yeah.
you know, Rich, which we know, Rich Summers, he made a post, interestingly enough, it's kind of some new content he's trying out on Instagram, but um, he was posting like, hey, maybe just doing a 30-minute walk versus a 5-hour workout. Or, you know, instead of working 24 hours, you're only working 3 hours. Or maybe instead of reading a whole book in one sitting, you read 10 pages. And then I commented saying, sometimes less is better,
Mm,
because we don't need to always be just bombarding ourselves with so much that sometimes just to fill a gap that we may have in our lives, whatever that may be. I know I'm
yeah.
getting a little philosophical right now.
No, but by the way, this is I mean, at this stage I feel like this is everything. This is the root behind everything. We'll get into what you're doing, but this is let me ask you, because you touched on this and I don't want to let the serendipity go to waste. Two things, right? Um have you read the book Die with Zero?
I have not read that book. No.
Okay. I think you'll appreciate it. And I'll follow up with this. Let me ask you, you said, how would you define being rich?
How would I define being rich? You know, that definition will probably change from
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
But what I define of being rich is having the time to do what it is you genuinely want to do.
Mm,
Um, for me, there's moments, like I said, and not just on the weekends, but throughout the week. And I like tell my wife a lot this now. I'm like, man, it's a Wednesday. It's 11 a.m. and we just left some random store that she wanted to go shopping at with our boys. I have a 3-year old and a 2-year old, so they're not in school yet. That's to me rich.
mm,
There's nobody to answer to. There's nobody telling me where to be, how to be. You know what I mean? And to me, that is rich. That I get to have a healthy, beautiful family, still getting to do the things that we want to do, investing, doing all the things that I get to do, but ultimately have my time back and ultimately have those moments with my family, with my son. I got to see my son score his first goals in soccer last weekend. Now, if I was a busy nonstop and then I was in those seasons and I missed that, it would have broken my heart.
mm.
You know, if that was some stranger or some dad on the team sending me that, you know what I mean? Or like my wife, but my, you know, whatever that was, like to me as a father, that would have broken my heart. But the fact that I get to witness that and be there, and I watched that video like multiple times, you know what I mean? Cause I'm a dad and I'm proud of that. And so, you know, moments like that, they're simple moments, but meaningful moments. And that's what I believe rich is.
Love that. Well, you'll get insight then. I'm so glad you went there, because then you'll get insight from the book Die with Zero that talks about what you opened up this discussion with is grind can turn into a habit. Uh when and so can saving, so can and the whole premise of the book, I'll let you kind of unpack it yourself, but it's
Yeah.
in a perfect world, you're really collecting what you're talking about, memory dividends. And you know, it's a means there's money has a purpose, wealth has a purpose, and grinding has a purpose, right? And in a perfect world, you do it so that all the wealth that you accumulate, um you spend it to get your time back, memory dividends with your loved ones, etc. So because of the fact how you answered that, I think you really get a lot of value with the season that you're in right now.
Yeah.
And another thing that jumps out to me is I recently listened to an interview with Tony Robbins and
Alex Hermosi.
Alex Ramosi. And
Yeah.
dude, you heard that one?
Yep.
You
I
watched
watched
it?
it. Yeah.
Dude,
Yeah.
that is just the epitome of young progress and wisdom.
Hmm.
Like
Yeah.
the things that Alex was dealing with is in mind. You could see obviously Tony Robbins is a huge mindset guy, but at the same time, you could see he has richness in experience and wisdom and life, right? And so it came from a very different perspective. And I would just recommend anyone who's listening to this, right? And again, this is powerful because I think there's a lot of Alex Ramosis in us, right? Or at least striving to be like that. But you want to make sure you're optimizing for the right. Um, I guess I'll put it this way: getting rich is a science, achieving fulfillment is an art. And I think
Mm.
rich and wealth is achieving both, right? And if you don't have both, and you kind of re-optimize more for the other than the latter, then I think there's sometimes a disconnect, right? Which we could see in that. But it was a very humbling interview. Let's talk about your 2018 season because it sounds like now I'm talking to the seasoned Surge, right?
Mm.
Surge is dad now. He's talking about refinancing. He's talking about possibly another acquisition. How did you start your season, and where do you think your mindset was at the time? Were you operating from a place of, an opportunity? Were you seeking opportunity? Were you trying to break away from? Were you running away from something that you didn't like? Right? Because sometimes that motivates people. Right? Maybe it's a job. Where were you at in your season? What made you jump into what you're doing now?
It's a great question. And I remember clear as day where I was mentally and just kind of, you know, but I was 22 years old. I was very naive,
Mm,
so and very gullible to just the whole world of entrepreneurship, this whole industry, just everything, right? Like it was like my first time stepping into the real world for what it was. I had worked as a CNA while I was going through nursing school in a neurotrauma ICU. So any real world experience I had with just other people aside from my circle and my bubble of my family and
mhm.
my community. That was the real world experience I had, and I had my fair share of like exposure to the workforce and people in the workforce and how they all treat each other, and you build kind of different cliques and relationships, etc. So
And what's CNA, by the way?
a certified nurse assistant, and so I got to help all the nurses with all the patient care, and
Okay.
so I was in the neurotrauma ICU, so I got to see some of the most crazy situation: gunshot wounds, stabbings, people passing away right in front of your eyes, like
So it's
all kinds of situations.
so kind of like the show. What is it? The Pit.
I've never watched The Pit, but
Okay, apparently, reviews say it's very realistic based on
okay.
what you would
I would
see
have
if you
to,
were to
I
experience.
try to avoid shows like that because I never liked that setting, to be
Oh,
honest.
what? That's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. So but what I realized, and the again, as we all go through our own journeys, I had the
Mhm,
epiphany while I was there and working, and asking questions and being curious. These are all nurses. These are all people. I was going to nursing school, so I clearly was
mm.
already around the people who are already doing the career I was already in school for. Um, I came to the realization that none of them liked it. None of them were happy. None of them
Oh,
were truly fulfilling the passions and the dreams that they had inside, deep down inside them, right? And they
mm.
felt very limited based on their financial situation within that career. It was a very stable career, it provided for them, etc. So they got trapped, and once you kind of get trapped, you kind of feel like you're limited, right? And you don't want to take those risks as you get older, etc. So that's what I came to the conclusion. And with that conclusion, I'm like, if I'm gonna bet on myself, right now is the best time to do it. When I'm young, when I'm hungry, when the whole world's ahead of me, I can take all the risks. If that means me literally going broke, which I did multiple times, if that meant me living in on a cot in the car, which ended up happening, I could, right? I had no obligations. I had like I had nothing to lose essentially and
Let me
everything.
ask let me
So
ask you, Serge. Let me ask you because you're making such good points, and I'm curious. You sound very seasoned now, which you are, and the logic behind it makes sense now. Where did you get this ideology from, or is it borrowed from someone you're inspired by? Like, because all that you're saying, if like what you're saying sometimes takes people years to take that leap, right?
Right.
And I'm hearing it maybe from probably what, 30 now? Uh,
I just turned 30 in October. Yeah.
right on the money.
Yep.
I'm hearing it from your 30-year-old perspective. Do
Yeah.
you, and sometimes our memory can be fault, can be a little bit, we that's why I always say, like, when you ask successful people, like, they're successful now, they might have forgotten. It's always good to have a few people in the middle.
Yeah.
Do you remember if the mindset was of that then, or does it make sense based on what you're in retrospect and you're looking now? And if so,
Yeah.
what was the where did you borrow all this confidence from, or did it come from within, or did it come from an inspiration?
So a little bit of both. So when I was 12 years old, I was diagnosed with leukemia. I was
Oh,
diagnosed with
wow.
cancer. And I was in sixth grade. And I went through a whole month of treatment, very aggressive treatment where I had to relearn how to walk again. I had to, yeah, it was very difficult. And I did 4 years of treatment once I was out of the hospital. Um, when I was in eighth grade, so I would have a back then. Now they have the way different like technology and treatments and different things. But back then, I had a port that they would do all the treatments through. They would hook me up, and then I would get my treatment, but it would hang out. And then eventually, I had surgery again, and I had one that was placed subcutaneously, which was under the skin. And so I wouldn't be at risk of people like pulling on my port or something happening if I was like in playing in PE or in sports. But in eighth grade, I still had my port that was out. And I would go in the gym and I'd go in the back of the locker room and I'd change in the corner because I didn't want kids to see my port. And so that made me very insecure. And eventually kids caught on like, why does Serge keep going in the corner and changing, right? Like what's he got to hide, And you know how
Mm,
it is in middle school. And so eventually I was like, I have a port. They knew I was going through treatment and stuff. Like, teachers would let them know. But one day I was in this class called tech, and you would build a lot of stuff. You would do a lot of things like that. It was one of those classes where you just got to be like very hands on. And at the beginning of that class, at the beginning of the year, the teacher was like, "What do you guys all want to be when you grow up?" I don't even know why he asked that, but it was just a random. I guess he was trying to get to know everybody better and just to kill time. I put down that I wanted to be a CEO. I didn't know what a CEO was. All I knew about what a CEO did was that they ran businesses, they ran companies. That's all I knew about what a CEO was. I probably saw it in a movie. I don't know exactly why I put that down, but it sounded cool. And I was like, that's what I want to be. So subconsciously, that's where I think it started. And then later on, when right after I got my CNA certification, I was working in a nursing home that I was doing my clinicals at after I had gotten my
mm,
certification. And I had just gotten done doing some patient care, and I looked out this window. I would work the 3 to 8 p.m. Shift, and I remember it was around dinner time, and I was looking out the window after I had just done this patient care, and I looked up and I saw this really nice Audi RS7. I'm really into
mm.
cars, by the way.
I'm really into cars.
Yeah, so I saw this
That's a
Audi, and I
great.
was back then. This was probably around 2014, around 2014 maybe. Um, and I thought it was the cool. I was like, dude, that's such a nice car. Like, I want to be like that person. And I come to find
Mm,
out that I was one of the managing partners of that facility. It was a big skilled nursing facility, which is ironic because now I own big nursing facilities. And so I remember subconsciously being like, I want that. I don't know what that is exactly. I don't know how, when, where, how, nothing. I just spoke it subconsciously. I do believe in visualization and all that stuff.
you're my brother.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I truly believe that like when you say stuff, say it like you mean it and say it like you already have it because the world will align it to where if you truly believe it and you work towards it, it will happen. And there have been no one could talk me like that's foo-foo, none of that.
bro. I'm
Everything yeah, and
I
everybody that's experienced it can
I
attest to it.
I couldn't agree more, brother. And just for you to have some context, I study the laws. Like, you can see all my
Law of
books, man.
yes,
The
yes, 100%.
the Thomas Truard and the
Yes.
Napoleon Hills. I mean, I am. I am, and
My books are all right here to my left. You
right
can't see
here,
them. You
scroll
got
to my
yours
left as
behind
well.
yours. Yeah. I love, dude, books. I tell anybody, look, if there's going to be anything that's more powerful, just reading. Yes, Think and Grow Rich. I literally have it right here. I I have the orange one though. I have the, is it probably the newer version? Probably. Look at all my tabs and everything. But yeah, that's, yep. There, yeah. The Science of Getting, dude. I'm telling you, I have Tony Robbins books, dude. All, if I tell people all the time, I'm like, if you want to expedite your route to success. So to answer your question, those are the moments I like really remember, like specifically, like when I think back on what drove this for me to have this ideology of like just go out there, work, like don't. But here's where it really, taking no as an answer is not something I do. So for instance,
Love
when
that.
because of my cancer and everything, when I was going through school, I finished my last treatment when I was 16, which I know I graduated very young. I was 17 years old when I graduated from high school. So I was 16. I was a junior in high school when I finished my last treatment.
Wow.
And so I would always be told, Serge, take it easy. Serge, it's okay. You don't need a, you don't, everybody would treat me like as if I couldn't do what the normal kids were doing, essentially. And I
Mm,
hated that. I hated that I was being put in like a box or being limited because of my circumstance and because of my situation. Now,
yeah.
most normal people would use that and
As a
use it as
crutch.
a use yeah as a crutch or be a victim or like try to squeeze their way out of not doing stuff. But I used it as the opposite. I wanted to be treated just like anybody else, regardless
Mm,
of me going through treatment, regardless of me going through this situation that I didn't ask for. I wasn't the one that was like, God, give me cancer. No, it is what I was dealing with. It's what I had to go through. It was my journey. And because of that, I I like told myself no one is going to tell me I can't do something. If I want to pursue
mm,
something and if I want to do something, I'm not going to give up on myself because other people are giving up on me, and or telling me I can't do something. And so that's where that drive really came, was from that. Was because I was being told take it easy, don't worry about it, you don't need to do all that, like, and so I didn't really like that. And so that's what drove me to want to push myself even harder to ultimately prove myself, but prove them that I could do it too, regardless of my situation and my circumstance.
Experiment Nation, you've heard me talk about how multiple investors across the nation are landing these lucrative midterm rental insurance contracts by making these small tweaks on the branding and marketing side, especially if you're an existing short term rental operator. There is a quick and easy shift that you can make with the ride guide in place. And because we've launched a 2-day boot camp that not everyone could attend in real time, I've put together a recording where you can get all the materials and all the guides to focus on rebranding either your short-term rental business or your current midterm rental business so that you can actually have the insurance companies reach out to you. And then day two is if you want to actually play offense, how you can reach out to them by listing on the right platforms, etc. If you're looking to get this MTR bootcamp so that you can start optimizing and you can start receiving these lucrative contracts that again provide less headaches, less turnovers, unlike the Airbnb space, you can start receiving inquiries today by having the right guide in place. So please go to experimentrealestate.com/MTR bootcamp or click the link in the bio to make sure you get your hands on the midterm rental insurance bootcamp to fast track your way into landing these lucrative insurance contracts the exact same ways multiple investors have taken advantage of this unknown and untapped niche within the midterm rental umbrella. Wow. It's interesting because we do have a choice, right? Either we could be a victim or a victor, right? Uh and you chose the other out. Now that must be getting that at a young age, I feel like, man, that is it's incredible that you were able to overcome that, and I think it's a great example of how to turn something that could be a it could be, of course, it's very challenging on your
Yeah.
health, let alone on your mindset, but turning that around into something positive. Oh, by the way, this is kids are allowed, so the little one is more than welcome to join us here. Um, so cute. So let me ask you: you see the car Audi RS7? I'm a huge car guy as
Yep.
well, so I know exactly which one you're talking about.
Yep.
Which is fascinating because one of my favorite authors, and entrepreneurs, MJ DeMarco. I don't know if you know the Millionaire Fast Lane, but he was also, when he got into entrepreneurship, he went
Yeah.
up to a guy who had a Lamborghini Countach,
Yep.
and they asked him, "What do you do?" And he said, "I'm an inventor." So I think it's fascinating that, I one of the things I told you offline is I get inspired.
Yeah.
You see that, you don't ask how. It's one of the biggest key takeaways. Define
Mhm.
the what in mindset. The how figures itself out. Uh, Not like by sure by law, but you set an intention, right? You don't know exactly how things are gonna turn out, but you do set an intention. At that point, and maybe now we can jump into the middle season or maybe right from the beginning, because you see something, you get inspired, you don't know how. You became a CNA, you started speaking to people who are like, this isn't really, they're kind of capped out there, and this isn't really the life I want to live. What happens next, for you in this new season of, call it discovery, or I call it building, or call it jumping, and taking that risk of, okay, this isn't what I want, and make a decision. What happens next?
So I graduate nursing school,
Mhm,
and I come to a crossroad in my life. I had right before I graduated, I had multiple interviews. I ultimately decided to stick with the neurotrauma ICU I was already working in because my goal was to go become a CRNA, a certified registered nurse anesthetist.
mhm.
And these are people, when you go do surgery, they're the ones standing right above you and they're administering and monitoring everything, and they make a lot of money. Like six figures, I think like
Mhm.
250 to 300,000 a year. Now that would have been an additional 6 to 8 years of schooling, right? So I
Really?
would have, yes. And
Not
so
even experience. So hold on. You go, because I'm appreciating this process. So what would you do? You'd get your bachelor's and then you'd do nursing
Well, so I would have
specifically?
I would get my bachelor's of nursing. I'd work in the ICU for 2 years. That was the minimum requirement. And then I would apply for CRNA school. And then you would ultimately get a master's. I think you need a doctorate now to become a CRNA. But back then it was being having your master's degree.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at it up here, right? Highest paid nursing professionals, a median annual salary of 212, and earners can exceed 430 annually. That's pretty good money, man.
Sorry about that. But yeah, no,
Mm,
they can make a lot of money. So
absolutely.
what I ultimately I had talked to a lot of CRNAs as well because they would come into the ICU and they would intubate and they would do certain procedures where a CRNA was supposed to be present. And I would talk to them as well. I was in the night shift on the weekends. So I got to spend a lot of time with people and talk. And I came to a crossroad of, okay, do I go ahead and continue the safe route? Because it was safe and it was predictable. As long as I stuck it out, all I had to do was show up, do my part, study, pass exams, do what I had been doing already during nursing school, right? Or do I take a bet on myself? And
Mhm.
with this bet, it would be me going and starting a facility and then seeing where it goes.
Where did the seed get planted of starting a facility?
I was I was talking with one of my he's still an investor and a friend of mine back then, but he's still a nurse as well. I was talking with him one night while I was still working, and he goes, "Dude," he's like, I came across this like residential assisted living. Why don't you look into that? Like, you should like maybe that's something worth like pursuing and starting a business now that like you don't want to do nursing. Like, go start that." And I'm like, "Well, my aunt does it." And she was doing it in where I was living in Springfield, Missouri. That's where I was raised majority of my life before I moved to Phoenix to start my facility. And so I talked to my aunt. I was like, "Hey, how are things going for you?" She's like, "I'm actually looking to open a second location." And I was like, "Well, would you be open to me managing that and just like learning under her wing?" And
Good for
so
you.
she was like, "Well, yeah, like maybe." But she's like, "Let me get the second location open before I can really bring you on." And she couldn't get the second location open in the time frame that I was wanting to like get going. And
Because
she
they
had a
take
bunch
a
of stuff.
while. They take a while to set those things up, right?
Yeah, so and she had a bunch of, like, zoning issues with the second
Yep.
location, and so she couldn't quite get it up and running, and I was like, "I'm not gonna wait, and I'm not gonna commit. I don't wanna, like, take this job, work it for 6 months." Like, none of that really appeased me and, like, didn't make sense. And so that's why I ultimately decided to come out here to Phoenix. There was a lot of other things that kind of played a factor into why I moved out here. One being my faith and God ultimately guiding me out here. And then certain situations and doors that opened along the way that made
Mhm.
sense. And so that was what sparked the whole topic of doing an assisted living. It was just simply having that conversation with my colleague, using my nursing degree towards something that I already had a ton of experience from a medical side of it, not from a business side, but from a medical
Mhm.
side. I was more than comfortable administering medications. I was more than comfortable changing, the pens or diapers. I was more than comfortable doing all of that, and
Mm.
so it kind of just made sense. It was like there was no like crazy it was just it made logical sense, I guess, and I'm a very logical person. I'm like, if it makes sense, it makes sense. Like, I don't need to think and overthink a lot of things.
Well, that
That's
dude, that's
that's a big gift
powerful.
I guess I have from, a lot of people is that I don't overthink things anymore. I
Yeah.
just if it makes sense and it's logical and yes, there's gonna be certain risks, and I definitely encountered a lot of those risks,
Mhm.
as I started. But again, it's just you get up every single day, you put your best foot forward, and you keep going. As long as you don't stop and as long as you don't give up, you can't fail. You just
Yeah.
gotta keep going. Now, there are times where certain businesses and certain situations you have to just walk away from, right?
Mhm.
Um, but I would say in my situation, I definitely I just kept going. Like, I refuse to just give up. It's like
So
a blessing and a curse in a sense sometimes.
no, I think it's needed. I This is when we talk about the mindset stuff. Like I think there's you will be tested along the way, and if you don't have that mental strength, it will feel like everything's not working for you because you haven't given enough time for it to work on you, for it to work for you.
Correct.
Um, and so I think having that attitude and not taking no for an answer, like you said, is necessary. Let's unpack this now, right? Because people say, okay, they heard facilities, they heard, what does that mean? Let's unpack that at a real estate fundamental level for the listener out there. And for reference, I'll maybe level set and say, I know we had, shout out to Amanda and Boris who came on our show and they talked about their assisted living facilities, which then they started to talk about single family homes, and I was like, oh, interesting. When I hear the word facility, for whatever reason, I always think of like larger, which I believe
Mhm.
is where you're at, and you have about a dozen of these, right? Or is that where you're at? Right? Yeah, which is super impressive. Talk to me about what kind of real estate asset class we're talking about, and when you talk about logic, tell me why the math is mathin', for
Yeah.
you to continue to go not one, not two, not three, but continue to stack up your portfolio of way over of an impressive portfolio, seven to eight figure portfolio of these kind of assets. Why does it
Mhm.
work as a business model? What is the problem that we're solving? Let's unpack that because we got so much into the mind, which I love, but I want to make sure we can unpack a
Yeah.
little bit more about why is this even an opportunity I should even consider if I'm trying to receive a seed that is planted just like you did at the time.
Yeah, so with what you're essentially talking about and just high level, in regards to so everybody knows what an assisted living is. Everybody's heard of nursing homes, everybody's heard of skilled nursing facilities, everybody's heard of these places where just seniors go and they get parked and they ultimately that's like where they live out the rest of their lives, right? Um, I started out with what's called a residential assisted living home. Now, these are single family homes that are zoned with the city. So usually you'll get a certificate of occupancy or conditional use permit, depending on what state or what city
Mhm.
you're in. Every city is going to have their own requirements, their own regulations. And the state will also have its own regulations from a licensing standpoint for these homes. Now, these homes, once you get it zoned, you can then go get it licensed through the state. And so you ultimately become a non medical facility or home. They're in exchange. So whether you hear me say facility or home, just think of a single family home. My very first one, to give an example, was a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house that I started out of. I licensed it for 5 beds. So that was 3 private rooms. And then the master bedroom was a shared room. So that got me 5 beds. Now that's what I started with. And so when people hear of like assisted living homes or residential assisted livings, that's what they are. And you're doing non medical services, meaning you're assisting with activities of daily living. That'd be eating. So you provide breakfast, lunch, and dinner, snacks in between. You do medication administration. So you'll have a locked, closet or cabinet with each resident's medications that you're
You
going to
have to be a nurse for
administer.
that?
No. So
Interesting.
again, the key word there is non-medical.
Non-medical. But you said administrating, so you're just kind of
Administrating, you're putting the medications into a cup and you're giving it to them. That's
gotcha,
administration, right? That's
gotcha.
giving them medications. That you can get certified for, and it's just a certification. It's not like you need to go get a medical degree or anything of that sort. Now, if you have a nursing degree or you have medical background, what that does is provide more trust for the families and for the people you're
Mm.
going to be providing care for. So ultimately, that's like a really good key marketing standpoint, which is what I definitely used when I started my first facility. Because I was very young, I would always say I'm a nurse, and people like families love that. They're like, oh my gosh, the owner's a nurse. He's going to be overseeing my
Wow.
loved one's care. So, like, to them, that was a huge trust factor. Um, Really, all you need in your homes is your caregivers and your manager who's going to be managing your facility. Each facility will require an administrator or a manager. They're the same person. In the state of California, they're called administrators. In other places, they're called managers, but they're essentially the same person. And these are people who are certified through the state in order to be able to manage these homes. So that's
What's the certification for these folks if they're not taking school or anything like
They're
that?
like 40 to 80 hours, depending on the state requirements. I know in California, I believe it's 80 hours. Out here, it's 40 hours. And then you go take a state test. Once you pass, you get certified. And then there's a regulatory board that oversees those individuals that are all certified.
Now,
So
is it in your
essentially,
best interest? Sorry, Serge, is it in your best interest to, because you said a key thing, as an owner to get certified, or is it in your best interest to hire somebody who is certified?
not every owner, each state will have its requirements of who can be administrator. Like, for
Mhm,
instance, here in Arizona, you need 2,080 hours of paid healthcare experience, whether
mhm,
that was as a phlebotomist, whether that's as a CNA, whether that was a nurse, doctor, whatever. And it needs to be paid. So you need to have, and it has to be within the last 5 years. It can't be from 10 years ago.
mhm.
And you need to go back to your previous employer, have them write up a letter of recommendation, also the hours that you worked, etc. So it's not as simple as like, oh, let me just go get certified. There's still a process of getting certified. So a lot of owners, what they'll do is just hire out a manager who has already got their certification and they're able to just manage.
Totally. That's so interesting. So you got caregiver, manager, administrator, kind of can wear either can be interchangeable roles depending on the state. You got to get your license, certificate of occupancy, etc. How long does that typically take for one? What should one expect if you're like, wait, I got a 4.2, and I'm really inspired by this Serge gentleman and inspired by his story. A, do your due diligence, and obviously, I know you have an education platform, and just like
Yeah.
many others. But what uh, what should I be uh, thinking? What should I set as the expectation? Can I get started over the summer? Does it take that long? How long does it actually take to actually get this in place?
So there's a big opportunity right now. If you're going to start from scratch, because that's probably going to be most people's burning question. If you're going to start from scratch and you're going to just start a 5-bed from a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
You can get your manager certification as long as you meet all the requirements and you go do the 40 hours or 80 hours, depending on your state's requirements. That
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't take you more than a month to get your administrator or manager certification. So 1 month for that. In the same time, you're also knocking out getting your certificate of occupancy with the city,
Mm-hmm.
meeting those requirements, and then applying for your license. And so 3 to 4 months, if you know exactly what you're doing, which I've done multiple times, I mean, I can have and I don't do 5 beds anymore.
Yeah.
I only stick with 10 beds plus
Mm-hmm.
now, from a financial standpoint and from a number standpoint. Unless you want to be an owner who works in the business nonstop, go ahead, open something less than a 10 bed. But if you don't want to do that and deal with all that headache, do 10 beds or more, is what I would tell people. But
That's
that requires a larger asset, so on and so forth, and a little more capital. But that's kind of the expectation. Now there is a great opportunity now where there have been people in the industry for 20 plus years. My in-laws in
like your
California, they've
like
been
your aunt,
doing
maybe, like,
my
someone who's been
aunt,
doing it, right?
my in-laws have been doing it since 1999.
Wow.
Like this industry has been around for a long
Yeah.
time. It's not like it's just something new that came around in the
Mhm.
last 10 years. It's certainly been around way longer than that. But a lot of those owners are operating out of distressed assets that they have not reinvested any capital into. So they
Mm.
still have the same bathrooms. Maybe they've done a little bit of an upgrade here and there, but these are distressed assets. But the benefit is that they've got the zoning already in place. They already have the existing license in place,
Mm.
probably likely have residents in place, and you're able to negotiate way better terms with those types of places. And you can start operating day one. I mean, once the transaction is completed, you do a change of ownership, and you don't need to go through the whole initial licensing from scratch. So that's what I've been doing, is just acquiring existing facilities.
It's like buying a business.
Correct.
Yeah. So
That's
so so let's
exactly what it is.
talk about that, because clearly you've gone to the economies of scale. I only have you here for such a short amount of period. So let's talk about it. Single family home, typically, let's say 4 bedroom, 2 baths. What's the math on that? Because I know you're a logical guy. So if the men lie, women lie, numbers don't lie. What are the numbers on that? What we could expect from a ROI, return on investment,
Mhm.
perspective, and rental, and maybe by the bed, or maybe it's by the room. What can we generally expect? And then why it makes sense to go larger. And I'm kind of hearing the same language as what I hear in the boutique hotel space, where it's like you want to go, you want to have enough keys so that you can hire maybe a manager and be able to afford the payroll, etc. But before we get to the economies of scale, talk about the numbers at the single family level, and talk about how that differs at the larger facility level.
Yeah, so like what people hear a lot is the 10K per month, right? In assisted
Mm.
living, like residential assisted living, to be able to profit 10K a month from one location.
Okay.
Now, when they say that, that's based on a 10-bed facility. That is not based on a 5-bed or anything less than 10 beds. That's like if you were to take a 10-bed and you're averaging, the national average per bed right now is $5,800.
Okay.
So if you were to take that and you were to be at 100% occupancy, which is not always the case, you're likely on average going to be running around 90% occupancy. So if you were to take 9 beds times 5,800, that gives you a gross of 52,200. And
Mm-hmm.
so typically you're keeping 20% profit margin off of that.
Where does
After
the
all
80%
expenses are paid, your payroll, your food,
caregiver
your utilities, your debt service, everything.
activities?
Yep.
Do you let me ask you, because the math, I want to make sure that it's mathing for me. If you have a 4 bedroom, 4-2, like you said, your initial one, you had 5 beds, how much can you rent a room for?
You could rent a room based on the location that you're in on average. I mean, if the national average is $5,800
Yeah.
per bed, I mean, you're going to be in areas where it's more affluent. I have facilities. Well, I don't have facilities in Scottsdale. I have a lot of clients that have facilities in Scottsdale. They're averaging 8 to 9K a bed. Now that's Scottsdale. Now I have other facilities where I'm averaging 5K a bed. right? Because of the location. So location is
Okay.
going to be a huge part into
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you charge per bed. I would tell you don't use the 5 bed metric because the 5 bed metric is not going to pencil out unless you're not hiring the manager, unless you're filling in for your caregivers. When I was running my 5 bed, I had a lease of $2,800 per month.
Mhm.
I was my own manager. I
Mhm.
was I was my marketing director. I was my bookkeeper. I was all these roles when I
Okay.
was running my 5
I
bed.
see. Yeah,
And I was
you're
and I was
stuck
keeping about
in
I was
yep.
keeping half of that. I was keeping 5K a month profit
Mm.
at and anytime I would dip below 4 residents, I was at break even.
Wow. So basically what I'm hearing is because on paper when I hear, let's say, and again, I know you're giving a high level 5,800 average, uh reason that hits home for me is we have properties we started investing in Atlanta where mortgage would have been like 2,200, but now we also have properties here in like Massachusetts where like the mortgage is like 8,000, right? So when I hear 5,800, I'm like, huh. Again, all things relative, right? I hear I'm like, there's pretty decent margin, but what I'm hearing across the board is, okay, yeah, sure, you could get into a single family home or whatever, which you're advising not to, which I want to get to the next thing, which is the larger homes. But even if you did, the break even that comes from that 80% of expenses, and you said it's the basically all of the above. You're paying, are you paying for food too? Are you paying
Yes, it's all
for all the
inclusive.
activities, and how much? Okay, this is what I want to ask you. How much are you paying a typical caregiver average on average?
Minimum wage in most states is gonna be 15 to $16 an hour. Most
Okay.
of your staff is being paid anywhere, a dollar or 2 more than that.
What is that per year, just for context, out of that 50?
I mean, if you're running a 5 bed, you're probably gonna just really have 2 caregivers, 1 on days, 1 on nights. Your ratio is really gonna be 1 caregiver per 5 residents, you
Mm,
know? And like I said, you're not always gonna be 100% occupied. You're likely gonna be at, like, 3 or 4 in most cases, in most months. A month or 2 or 3, you may be at 100% occupied, you know? You have residents that move out, you have residents that pass, you have, all kinds of
mm.
different scenarios. The average resident will stay with you for 6 months.
That's crazy. You would think it's longer, no?
You will have residents that stay for 2, 3 years, but when I say on average, you gotta think you're taking a respite stay person that's maybe only staying there
Oh,
because they've had hip surgery and now they're going home after 2 months of recovery. You may have a resident who comes on hospice and they end up only living 3, 4 months,
jeez.
right? But then you may have a resident who moves in and they stay with you 3 years, 4 years, or the rest, you know what I mean?
Do you
But
have
it
like an
all averages out. So I look at averages.
Yeah,
Averages
well,
make the most
that's
sense. And
funny that you say averages because I was gonna say, Serge, what do you see as like a it's what do you see as like the every not even retirement, I don't even think that's the right word, but typically folks attending these homes, are you seeing 60s, 70s, 80s? Like, is there a number that you're seeing that's the
they're
most
all
common?
they're all usually in their 70s plus. If you have someone younger than that, it's because they've had some kind of accident
Okay.
or they got early onset dementia and there's
Oh,
like most individuals and most seniors will not need care like that until they're like early or late 70s.
damn. That's so interesting, man. So that's good data. What is the data showing you for a future? And I want to get to, I don't want to wrap up here, but want to get to, now you're going bigger. I think there's two opportunities that I'm aware of, and please help me cover my blind spots here. Just like I've heard it time and time again, right? That transfer of wealth, people selling businesses, the boomers, etc. There's that. Then there's a silver tsunami. Then there's, I mean, you name it. There's people who are just transitioning. They're tired. They don't have anybody to sell their assisted living facility to. Uh, I'm assuming you're gonna say yes, Ruben. All of the above. And what am I missing? Is there are those all true, or what do you see as the biggest opportunity now that you're in this season? Is
Mhm.
it acquiring and people doing seller financing? Like, what are you seeing as the big play with the little time that we have here to say, hey guys, this is an opportunity. You should just I'm planting the seed, but you should explore this, and here's why.
Here's what I would say is the biggest opportunity. So we're about a million beds short across the nation right now.
Of
So of like for residents, a million beds short. Now
Jesus.
you have 10,000 seniors that are turning literally like 65 and older every single day. This is every day. So today, 10,000 seniors just turned 65 in our country. Now, when I said 70 is where they're roughly going to start needing a lot of need for these services for activities of daily living, that is going to increase significantly over the next 5 to 10 years. So the estimated shortage is going to be 3 to 4 million beds within the next 5 years. So,
So we have an increase in demand and a shortage in supply.
and that just makes for a perfect business.
Economics 101. Damn.
Yep. So when I tell people if there's, and people would be like, well, why do I walk into facilities and homes, and why would I come across something that may have high vacancy rates, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of reasons, dude. Just like any business that's outdated. They're not optimizing systems. They're not
Mm.
optimizing technology. They're not optimizing their marketing. They're not building their network. They're not building their relationships. All these mom and pop, and these are treated like mom and pop businesses. These aren't commercialized businesses. They're not your Brookdales and your big
Mm.
box 300 unit assisted living facilities that you guys see and drive by occasionally. That's not that. Those people got it down to the, that's institutional money there.
Mm.
This niche, anything under 150 beds, is too small for institutional money like that to look at. So it goes under the radar. It's low hanging fruit, you know, but you do have private equity groups and you have,
Mm.
and they do roll ups.
Yes, sir.
So they do like these types of businesses because they know they can do roll ups with them because there are a bunch of mom and pop owners. So I'm already like I've been in talks with 3 different private equity groups. One of them
Yep.
offered to buy 3 of our facilities in our portfolio, which we said no to as of right now because we just acquired them and we bought them off market, bought them way below replacement and appraised value, you know what I mean?
And you
Um,
think you can get more for them down the road, right? I'm assuming
why not cash
with
flow them and then
with this shortage, I
yeah,
would imagine
they're only gonna be more valuable.
exactly with a
So
proof of concept and everything on your
well, the
book.
proof of concept's already there for us because they're existing businesses. It's not like we're having to start them from scratch. We're going in there and we're like again optimizing them, making them better, implementing, increasing a lot of cases. We're increasing the amount of beds and capacity we can actually get because like dude, I kid you not, there's literally like the stuff we're doing now. There's literally units that are offline because they're being used for storage. They're using for an office for one of their employees and these are units that can generate revenue and increase the
Mm.
licensing capacity there. That's
Yeah,
instant value add. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And then there's like we're looking at the most recent acquisition we're looking at right now. One of the buildings, I kid you not, is literally completely offline and is not even being used. And that one is for it's 10 units in there. So they're all private units, 10 beds. Um, and it's completely offline because it needs to be remodeled and the current ownership doesn't want to do it. They don't want to continue to put more money into their asset. Um, and so for us, that's value add right there instantly. We go in there, we renovate it, we start placing that instant. You know what I mean? And just a lot. They got a couple other like buildings there that need some work and need some, and there's development opportunity on that same deal. So we're looking at a lot of this stuff right now. And there's a lot of that type of opportunities where it's just the stressed asset with the distressed operator who needs to get out from under that deal.
Let me ask you, Serge, are you finding, because this is to me, you're buying a business, right?
Yes.
Uh, but at the same time, you're also buying real estate. So when you're acquiring these, sounds like seller financing could be a route. But then it
Yeah.
also sounds like this is a very bankable asset. Can you talk about the strategies and being able to finance these that you've seen, or I guess the lowest hanging fruit of acquiring these? Is it your typical commercial loan, or whatever that is out there in the marketplace, just from your knowledge?
Yeah, so I'll give an example of our one of our 50 or well, it was 35 beds when we bought it, but we're increasing it to 50 beds by bringing some of the units online, um, and increasing the licensing there. That one,
Sorry, do you? I want to make sure I understand. When you say online, do you literally mean like turning it on, or do you mean like on bringing it in available online for availability?
well,
Sorry.
when I bring online, like I mean it like we can place a resident in that unit.
Okay,
Um,
cool. I just want to make sure I
yeah,
understand
yeah,
because it's
yeah.
a new,
No,
new, new,
100%.
new
No, that's
industry
okay.
for me. Okay.
So yeah, like when I say bring it online is just turning that unit into a room that a resident could
Like,
be moved into.
yeah. Okay.
Um, for instance, that one we did get seller financing. I think he did 370,000. It was like 11% of whatever we bought. No, it was 300. Yeah, 300. It was like it was 11% of whatever our purchase price was on it. So he
Okay.
seller financed 11%. 65% we went to the commercial lender and got, and then the rest we raised as equity.
Okay. And commercial lending is just like you would buy a multifamily or like a boutique hotel, just your commercial loan, more than 4
Yep.
units essentially.
Typically a 5-year term. If you can get a
Hmm.
10-year term, great. With a 25 arm, you know,
What are you putting
prepayment.
down on those? You said that would be the delta
That
of what,
one
ten,
we
15?
had our bank loaned us 65%, and then we had
Okay.
11% from the seller as seller financing as a second note on the deal.
That's really cool, man.
But that was
Oh wow.
that deal. And we've done other like small little like seller financing structures like that with like us,
Hmm.
if an owner to just fill the gap, but
Yeah.
yeah, like and there definitely is seller financing opportunities out there where you could just seller finance the business portion and
Mm.
then buy the real estate. So
Oh, do people lease sometimes in this business
100%.
model?
Yep,
Oh,
100%.
interesting.
So you could lease
And
and you can have that option to purchase, right of refusal, do like a 5-year lease, stabilize it, and then go get SBA lending after you've operated for 2-3 years and let it season.
interesting. It feels like there's a lot of leverage to pull, right? On the marketing side, getting a property online. Well, not literally online, but turning it over, right?
Yep.
What's the biggest lever in this niche that one can pull? I heard you say almost like a burr as well strategy. What is the biggest lever one can pull on all fronts to maximize the ROI on this type of investment?
It's and it's what multifamily is, right? If you can go in,
Mm,
their biggest lever is being able to increase rates. If it's below market rates and they can increase the NOI by increasing those rates by renovating a couple units and turning, a bunch of units and then increasing a lot of cases on the business side of it, the lever is increasing the rates. There's a lot of you'd be surprised, dude. A lot of these residents ownerships, what they do is they'll give them a sweetheart deal on their resident contract saying you'd never have to do an increase to your rate. This is a fixed rate for the rest of your life that you're here, and it'll be way below market rate.
mm.
And with
And it's
and with new ownership, you don't have to technically honor that residence agreement. I know that sounds harsh, but what you do is you give them the option of saying, "Hey, look, you're way below market rate. We have to increase it." And most families are very understandable. And you don't do it right away when you take over ownership. They want to get to know you. They want to see what kind of quality care the new ownership group is going to provide, et cetera. And if they're really happy, they're more than willing to accommodate. Now, if they're not, then you work out, okay, well, let's find you another location, another, facility that fits your budget. We may not
okay.
fit, and let's
Yeah.
do somewhere else you could ultimately move your loved one if needed.
So you can charge as high as what the marketplace is willing to pay for, right? And you said a keyword happy, or is that sorry, that was an assumption. Is that correct?
Like if the residents
It
or
is
families
is
are happy?
the marketplace if the marketplace or someone in the marketplace is willing to pay 10 grand for a room that has all of what they want and would make them happy, they'd be willing to pay. Am I
Correct.
correct?
Correct.
What
100%.
is what is that want that most people, because I heard you, I listened to your content, you talk about making sure that you're making it about the family when you meet them and their
Mhm.
loved ones is taken care of. That's check mark, right? That's selling 101. They want to know that they're gonna go to a place where they actually are cared for and not just being sold a facility. Great, check mark. Baseline level. Then what is the next thing most families, maybe the first question they ask, or are they asking about what kind of chefs do you have? Are they asking about do you have a treadmill? Like obviously probably not, but like what are they asking that would make a facility provide maximum potential value for someone to be willing to not even bat an eye at paying for that value for their loved ones?
The biggest thing is going to be quality of care, and they won't know
Oh,
what the quality of care is going to be until after they've moved in, unless
mm.
they already see the other residents. Here's the thing: when a family comes and tours, perception is everything. How
Mm.
the facility smells, how it looks, are the staff smiling, are they happy, are the other residents
Happy.
clean, are their rooms, yes, are they happy, are they doing activities, is it a lively environment, is it active, is it, you know what I mean? To them, that sells it. They don't, to
Wow.
them, they know right off the bat this is going to be a good fit, and this, or it's not. And it's all about perception. Not only is it all about perception, but it's also about who's doing the tour and who's marketing. Dude, I did so many tours. I forget, like, but my biggest thing, I had a 90% success rate on when I did the marketing myself on my facilities.
Wow.
Meaning there was only 10% that I missed, and it was only because the budget was the reasoning. I was too expensive for them.
Yeah.
That was the only reason. But aside from that, I knew almost with a 90% certainty that that resident was moving in, and I would close them every single time at the end of the tour. And the tour only, I had it down to a science.
Yeah.
So 30 minutes is all it took me to do the tour. At the end of the 30 minutes, if it lasted longer than that, it was because they were giving me a bed hold deposit that was non-refundable, and we were taking the paperwork and we were figuring out when they're moving in.
I heard that's one of your closing tactics, getting it right there before I start walking out of properties. What does that look like to get a deposit? How much are we talking?
It depends on the facility, but typically $500 to $1,000 bed hold
Commitment.
deposit, and then it's non-refundable. It doesn't get applied to the first month's rent, and it ultimately holds it for 7 days.
That's so interesting, man. It sounds like it's a combination of, okay, and I don't even know if you would say bare minimum of, because I don't want to use that word bare minimum, but let's say the real estate assets in a respectable condition. And
Mhm.
if you were to then invest in your staff, in your systems, in your workflow, in your marketing, am I wrong in thinking that that would pretty much put you in a we're not here to be average, uh, but put you in a top percentile from a delivery perspective and setting yourself from the crowd?
100%. It does not take much to move the needle or to set yourself
Mm,
apart in this industry. The standard is so low.
wow.
And when I tell people, I just did a video, it hasn't come out yet, but
Yeah.
I did a video. I think next week, yeah, next week it'll be coming out. Um, and I show a home, a facility that's available, that is actively licensed. It's vacant, no residents, and I show the condition of it, and it's terrible. It's like, but that is what there's facilities or homes just like that every day providing care for seniors. The
Wow.
facility that we, like I said, the one that we were looking to acquire, it's 99 beds. So it's definitely larger.
Good for you.
Um, one, like I said, one of the buildings is completely needs like it's offline. You can't place any residents in there. It's, needs to be completely redone. But then some of the other buildings, they need some TLC. They need some love. Like you walk through them and you're like, dude, this is sad. Like this is heartbreaking. Like like I took one of our potential code GPs that's going to be on the deal. Um, and he was like, dude, that felt like, he's like, my heart
Gel.
broke for those residents. Cause he's like,
Oh,
it felt like gel, you know?
uh,
And then around the corners where we have our 50 bed. And then I took him there and he was like, dude, that's like
night and day.
night and day difference. And they're literally 5 minutes apart. So
Wow.
like you're like that's how like when I talk about like it doesn't take much to move the needle, it just takes love. It just takes attention. It just
Mm,
takes again a heart to like care for these people, you know what I mean? And like you said, provide a quality of life that you ultimately would like when I go to my facilities, I go with pride and with like joy when I take any of our investors or anything. And I love showing off our stuff, dude. Like showing off our portfolio and being like, this is our asset and this is, this is how things are running. And dude, they love it because they know like that's what it like you could take pride in that stuff. How you do one thing is how you do everything. And
Said it, brother.
to me, I'm like, that's how I want to run everything that I do. And so I would tell people the opportunities are certainly there. And for us, I mean, the ones we're looking at have certainly been off market. We're not like going against a ton of buyers. There haven't been a ton of buyers in the last 2 years. We've been actively purchasing and actively been in the market and keeping our ear to the ground. We're also pivoting into like healthcare retail buildings as well. We closed on one in November that has an like adult day center, so that's a whole nother business model, which is pretty much a daycare for seniors. And so, we have a minority ownership in that business as well. Um,
Wow.
and we own the building now as for that. So there's 7 suites. They're all like, one of them is like a holistic doctor. The other guy, there's like a nail salon there. Then there's like a caregiver's business there as well. So yeah, it's a great asset. Sits on a main thoroughway in Bee Ridge. We love it. It was a short sell from a bank that our operator, he ultimately owned the building and just wanted to get out from under it. So he did a sell lease back with us for his suite.
Mm.
So we people need to understand that in order for you to like take advantage of certain opportunities, you don't. There's so much to go around. You can't buy everything. I can't buy everything, right? There's so much money to be made and so much opportunity to be made in real estate and in businesses and in other things.
Yes.
But you have to actively be out there doing it. You can't just be thinking about it. You can't just be going to networking and like situations and picking people's brain all the time. No, you have to get in there, get in the dirt, make the phone calls, acquire things. If you're gonna put an offer on something, follow through. Unless for some reason something happens and you can't move forward with the deal. Like, we take pride in the things we do. Like we take, as any investor or buyer or anything, we don't like wasting our time. We certainly hate wasting anybody else's time. And so I think there's a lot of tire kickers out there. I truly believe with the internet and with everybody glorifying entrepreneurship and real estate investing and all this stuff, everybody is something nowadays. Everybody's got
Mm.
something going on. And I'm like, really? And then you start digging and pulling the layers back. You're like, dude, come on. Really? Like, you don't got nothing going on. You bought one single family, and all of a sudden, like, you're a top dog,
You're a
right?
guru.
Yeah. And I
You're a
hate
guru.
that because I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, that's
You
that's
did
such
it
a
the wrong
huge misrepresentation of what it truly takes.
way. Mm.
I mean, I've been through massive, massive setbacks financially, in business and in other like I got scammed when I first got into this industry. Dude, I mean, when I talk about like, and everybody's got their journey and everybody's got their stories and all that. But dude, it's not for the fainted hearted.
No, yeah, even it'll be the ones closest to you. I heard about your partner, right, as well.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, losing
100%.
that money.
Yeah.
Um,
That was a tough season. If there was a season that was probably my toughest, that was
that
it.
was a test. That's the test, though. You gotta
You know
every
what?
there's a
You're absolutely right. I remember
yeah.
telling myself and praying. I'm a man of prayer and I'm a man of faith, like I said. I know we're going a little over. I probably got another good
I I I
15 minutes.
I know, I know, I apologize because you
No,
said how
you're
you do
good.
one thing, how you do everything, and I went overtime on you, brother.
No, you're good. What I would tell people is, so when I was going through that season, when that all happened, and if anybody needs context or whatever, ultimately we had a partnership that went sour. Somebody stole $300,000 from us, then ultimately ended up committing mortgage fraud against an asset that we owned together, and did all this stuff. Right, ended up into a massive lawsuit. It was just crazy. It was like a movie. It felt like, but not the good kind. It's the kind that's got you on edge and sweating bullets because you're like, I don't know how this is going to end. Um, During that season, when it really happened, and there was a week, and I tell people, and I've said this on other podcasts that I've been on, but there was a week when it all kind of started happening, and it bothered me so much. Like when I talk about like it tested me, emotionally, mentally, and I just came to the realization of what happened. It stressed me out for a week straight where I was just in the dumps. Like I was so upset and depressed over the fact that it was money, right? There was money on the line, a lot of it. And we didn't know what the outcome was ultimately going to lead to, and what was going to happen. But I was so upset about the situation that I had like lashed out. At the time he was 2, my oldest, which you guys all probably saw. And it was just one of those moments where he did something like, a 2-year-old does, right? And it just I snapped, right? And when I snapped, my wife's like, "What's wrong with you? Like, stop. Like, we get it. Like, it's okay. Like, we'll figure this out. Like, just relax." And I'm not perfect. I'm a flawed man. Anybody is. And so I'm glad to admit it, because it's like if anybody says they're perfect, they're straight up lying. Um, and so I went to my office where I'm at now, and I sat there just thinking about like my actions, right? Like the kid in the corner, like think about your actions. And I just felt so terrible as a like what it just happened and how I like reacted. And when God came to me and just ultimately like, who's your idol?
Mm.
And in that moment, it was money. Money was my idol. Money was making me react the way I was reacting. It was the situation sucked. Absolutely. It was terrible of him, to do what he did. But in that moment, it was because it was tied to money. And my heart was so attached to that. And in that moment, God made me realize, yeah, and so that's when I came to the realization. Again, these are moments that happen along the way, and you have to be man enough and you have to be humble enough to admit stuff like that to yourself. And to me, that was that moment for me. And ever since then, I said, God, whatever comes of the situation, like I don't. If this is how money's going to make me react, then I'm not worthy of it to be a steward of it.
Mm.
I'm not worthy. If that's what it means and that's what it does and changes me as a person, then I'm not worthy of it. And I can't be a steward of that. If that's, and I just had to have that conversation with myself and with God, and, sit there and really like think hard and long about it. And so what I would tell people is like, you're going to have losses, but those losses will not determine who you are as a person, only if you allow it to. And if you take it too close to heart, there's an issue there. And the issue is that you're making it your personality, you're making it your character, you're making it who you are, which ultimately makes it an idol. Um, and when you make something an idol and something like that happens, it's not healthy, it's not good. It will and people will do crazy stuff when they're desperate and when they're and that's where your true character comes out. And
Bro.
even though my true character didn't come out in other like business things, it came out in that moment of like, no, this is not who I want to be as a person. This is not who I want to be as a father, and so, for me, that season there was a lot of learning, not just internally about myself, about money, about partnerships. We had to go through multiple, like we had attorney fees galore. It felt like just attorney season all like for straight year. When I tell people we had to sue and we've been sued. So I've been on both ends of it. And neither side is fun. I'll tell you that much. And in business, you will have those situations. And especially as you scale. And especially as you now, I'm not saying I love the partners I get to work with. Um, but that's a whole nother topic with partnerships. But yeah,
Bro.
there's a lot you can talk about in business, and you can tell which ones are the real ones when they can tell you, "Hey, man, here's a couple things that happened, and here's probably what you want to like think about." So yeah, that's what I would have to say about that season. This happened from July to pretty much like February of this year, so it was a very recent season.
Bro.
Oh, actually, I'll say February of last year. Sorry, it was 2024 into 2025. So it's been a little over almost a year since it's been like all resolved and stuff. So
Well, listen, I'm gonna just highlight and commend you for just I can tell you do the mental work, and I really respect that. And I always say it's true. that, you know, you're a true reflection of your business. And one of the things that you said is people need to put a little bit more love into it. And I can see the passion in your eyes and the maturity that you have. And there's so many points that you were such in the zone that I wanted to add. There's so many good things that you said. One on the making money the idol, right? Because you're a man of faith, you'll appreciate this, right? It's, I think sometimes people misrepresent the good book, right? The
Hmm.
Bible, where it'll say, people will misconstrue money as the root of all evil. No, the love of money, right?
Correct.
If you the ideology, right? Idolatry, is that how you say it? That when you make it your idol, right?
Yep.
That is when it becomes an issue. And it was really cool. Like when you said it, it kind of really hit me because it's like you said, I'm not worthy of it. It's reminding me of the be do have that my mentor always talks about. Have you become the person that's able to do the thing to then have the thing? Are
Hmm.
you the type of person, right? The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of convenience and comfort, but
Right.
where he stands at times of challenge and controversy, right? So are you the type of person who is able to receive that challenge and still be able to stand zoom out and understand what's most important, and which you told me what rich is about, right? Doing things with your loved one, etc. But what happens when that obstacle gets in the way and almost reprioritizes? It means you don't have your priorities in order, and that came from a place of growth. And it's so beautiful for you to even say that out loud and have it reflected, because someone would say, how could you not be upset? Of course, yeah, but can you keep the main thing the main thing? And
Yeah.
right now, when I'm to put a bow in this conversation, I want to give you kudos, brother, because you just said it a few times, right? How you do one thing is how you do everything. And you also said it doesn't take much to get to the top percentile in your industry because people just lack the love, right, in their heart to be in service. And I truly believe if you serve enough people and help them get what they want, aka the families on the other side placing their families, you can have anything that you want, right?
Yeah.
Because you'll just be someone of service who's today you're super proud to have a dozen plus facilities. You're looking at 100 units. I mean, golly, good kudos to you for having gone full circle through the entrepreneurship journey. And like you said, there's no overnight success, or if you want to call it overnight success 2018 to 2026, we'll call it be it. But the
Yeah.
8 years of maturity, trials and tribulations, testing, letting it work on you before it can work for you. I just want to highlight that, man, and give you your this is how you earn a season of decompress and rest,
Yeah.
right? Not at the beginning, but seasons when you've done the work and you've earned the receipts, as I like to call them, which you have. So man, I just want to say this has been super dope. And like I said, I'm a man of my word and I went over it by 30 minutes, but you were just flowing, brother. I couldn't stop you. And I really want to thank you for sharing not only faith, wisdom, maturity, and what entrepreneurship is all about, baby.
Yeah.
Creating opportunities for other in a service that and creating memory dividends for other people, which is what I appreciate in this
Absolutely.
kind of business that we're in. So congratulations to you, brother. Like seriously, and the best is yet to come. So let me ask you right before we transition and I ship you out of
Mhm.
here, because I see the babies were running around earlier, and I know you got other people to spend time with that deserve more of your attention than mine here. But real quick, you talked about roll up on the way out. You are
Mhm.
just getting warmed up for sure, and you've done so much at the same time, so kudos to that. What is the next 5 years look like for you? Do you even look that far? Because sometimes, I have a mentor who's like, don't set goals, set more of action driven things you're going to do. What do you see as the are you trying to exit? Are you trying to say no to private equity now so you can say yes later? What next time I have you on my show, brother, and we circle back, what do you want to put out there into the universe? Because you and I both know the laws, right? Speak
Yep.
it, believe it, receive it. So I
Yes.
want you to say it in the air right now. What are your intentions, brother? So that not only we can support you in your journey, open up doors. It takes a village, but at the same time, know what you're going to be up to.
Absolutely. What I would tell most people, right? And like I said, I follow Andy Frisella very closely. He's, I'm a part of a lot of his stuff that he does. Um, he says just conquer 24 hours. What I would
Mm,
what I would say is just take care of 24 hours. Scripture also tells us tomorrow has its own worries. So don't worry about tomorrow. Just take care of what you need to take care of today. And again, put one foot in front of the other. Now, there's no problem with certainly being like, what does the future look like? Because with law of attraction, you will achieve things and you will hit certain goals, and hopefully all of them that you set out that are, good. And so for me, I've hit a majority of the goals that I've set out to.
Mhm.
And so moving forward, I've certainly had these conversations with myself of what 5 to 10 years, what I want to be at 35 and where I want to be at 40. The beautiful thing about entrepreneurship and business is that it's never ending. You're constantly evolving, you're constantly learning, you're constantly adapting. For me, as I look forward the next 5 to 10 years, it's all about quality over quantity for me. So, meaning the assets we acquired, the deals we do from a business side of things are more about quality rather than volume and being like, I want to acquire 1,000 beds in the next
Mm.
5 years, right? I'd rather acquire a solid 100 bed unit per year and that's 500 beds. I'm not saying that's the exact metric that I'm using, but I'm just using it as an example of like
100%.
quality over quantity. Same with my relationships, same with
Mhm.
my time. I want to have quality time with quality people who are going to help me push
Mhm.
myself, have deep conversation, meaningful conversations, quality conversations. Um, and that goes the same for my relationship with God. I want to have more quality time with Him. I want to have more quality time with my family. And in 5 years, I just want to look back and be like, man, I was a different person. The beautiful thing about I've been on social media and on YouTube and all that for the last 8 years. And sometimes I look back at my old videos and at myself and being like, oh my goodness. And I'll remember the things that I was thinking and feeling and being like, I was so immature. And dude, you have no idea what's about to happen in 6 months from that video, right? Of when you
Yeah.
filmed it you know what I mean? So that's the cool thing about like documenting. And
Dude,
I
I
did social media.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I did like YouTube more of like documenting that process, and where I was at.
Yeah.
And so in 5 years, to answer your question from a business side of things, I'm sure within the next 5 years, I'll probably have a couple small, exits, maybe sell off a portion of our portfolio. We're in the process of right now liquidating, moving chess pieces around. Some of our, you know what I mean? Like things are ebbing and flowing. We're pivoting, we're implementing, but for me, I want at 35, 5 years from now, I definitely want to be even more seasoned operator, a more seasoned entrepreneur. I definitely want to have some nice little exits along the way, to provide some liquidity events to be able to continue to enjoy the things, the fruit of your labor, to continue to reinvest in more deals and growing. And for me, where I want to be 5 years from now, probably building our dream house. My wife and I have been fortunate to be able to do a new build, but it was like partially semi like new build because we did it with a builder. But it wasn't like fully custom. So we definitely want to do that for our future family. Right now we're pregnant with our third, so we plan on having some more kids.
Yeah, you came from a large family, right? Like, of, like, 14, right?
Family of 14. I'm number
Damn.
13 or 14. Yeah.
They
So
don't even make them like that anymore. Is
I
that what
know
we're going
I'm
for?
not trending that way. We'll have a little soccer team
You
maybe,
could be on
but
track, man. Starting
yeah.
5.
So for me, I want to in 5 years, like I said in the very beginning, I'm in the season of like slowing down, but like in the sense
Yeah.
of enjoying life more
Please.
and
As you
enjoying,
should.
because I think people just get so caught up in this grind, and that there definitely is like if there's one thing I'm very happy I did was taking my 20s and not wasting it. And it's
Mm.
not even your 20s, but even your 30s. When I turned 30, I remember telling my wife how excited I was for my 30s because I had built this foundation now, and my 30s is going to be like 30 to 50 is going to be those are going to be my prime years. Those are going to be the years where I'm going to maximize how much I'm going to be making and investing,
Mhm.
maximizing the quality of life. You know what I mean? Like I'm going
Experiences.
to yeah, like that's where I get to finally be like, you know what, it took sacrificing my 20s, because when I say I didn't do anything in my 20s but do my business, that's all I did, and
Dude.
date my wife. Like I didn't party. I've never had alcohol. I don't, smoke. I don't do anything of that sort.
Mhm.
I could care less about the party scene, the club scene, the looking fancy, looking, flashy, whatever. I don't care about any of that. That stuff doesn't impress me. And so for me, I just grinded all my 20, like, you know what I mean? So I'm glad I invested my 20s, even though I had no idea what I was doing. I was learning, I was,
You have to.
growing.
Yeah.
But even my 30s, I'm going to continue to grow. I'm going to
Oh,
continue to do things to help me, um, ultimately, build that generational wealth, build, more assets while also giving back. I had, like I said, I had cancer as
giving.
a kid. I want to for sure do, like, give back to a lot of families who have had gone through or going through certain situations like my family did when I had cancer, of giving back to them and giving them money and resources and things to be able to go through those seasons. Another thing is, um, child like trafficking and like that stuff
Mm,
like breaks my heart.
yeah.
Not that I've encountered any of it or like dealt with
No,
it, but
just the concept.
it's
Yeah.
just like that stuff. Like Romania's like one of the most notorious places that it happens,
Wow.
because of the orphanages out there. And so like my wife and I have always said like that is what we want to do, is to teach our kids to continue to help others and to do more. So I definitely want to incorporate that as I grow and as I, you know what I mean? So those are things
Dude.
that I have long term for myself. And, everybody's got their own reasons and their own things that they want to do. And for me, those would be, while still serving with the purpose. And another thing I would leave you guys with, I mean, another thing that we didn't talk about, but like the reason why I love this asset class specifically
Mhm.
is because of the need that you're servicing and the instant, like, you can see it right away. So like when you take a facility over and you incorporate all these value add components to it and you make it just a better place, dude, the families that are already there instantly are so much more grateful. The residents start
Wow.
doing better. They like the
It's like
impact
almost
that
like
you
an
have.
immediate ROI that you can see and feel
I would say,
emotionally.
yeah, it's more of like an ROH, right? Like return on
Mm,
happiness. Like you literally
mm.
just like you get happy just knowing that you coming in as an owner and as an operator, getting to do that kind of work and getting to impact them directly like that. So
With love. With
yeah.
love.
So
Dude, man, you are so ahead of your time, brother. Like seriously, and I really respect and admire what you're doing, because you're just getting started, but you got it figured out. Because you've done the work and you've done a lot of the mental work, and I commend you for. I'm with the 20s thing, man. Experiment, fail, learn, repeat. What you see
yeah,
behind me here is really what it was. I think from 20 to my 30s, just experimenting and understanding where I wanted to be of service. And I've
yeah,
done a lot of different avenues, a lot,
yeah,
which is, we could unpack that on a whole nother show. But I respect that you sacrificed, um, and you did the work to then be able to get to a place now where you can have the luxury to enjoy it with the family that you built and the people that you love. And I think that's a really good thing because I feel sometimes people, I don't know that there's a right or wrong way to do it. I just really liked how you did it. Some people have more memories and now are playing catch up, or sometimes now you get to, I think now is the best time, right? You're young, you're starting a family, financially you're at a good place, and I mean, what else can you ask for? And you're
yeah,
still active. Like it's just what a time to be alive. I think you got
yeah,
the order right, which is what Die with Zero is about. It says you can do a lot of things, but you got to get the order right in life. And
yeah.
I think that's the challenge, and
Um,
the
I had
opportunity.
I had a song that Vienna by
Mhm.
who's the artist on that?
Yeah.
By Billy Joel.
Okay, I'm gonna tap
My
in.
my barber, I was talking with him and I was telling him this was a couple weeks ago, and he was like, "Dude, just listen to the song Vienna." He's like, "That will," and I did right after I left from there, and I'm like, "Bro, like those lyrics speak, it's like slow down, like what do you have to do? Like
You
You're gonna have
crazy child.
problems. Yeah, yeah.
You're so ambitious for a juvenile. Okay, we're gonna unpack it. Dude, you and I gotta have an open thread. Promise me you'll be in touch because and
Absolutely.
now how can the community be in touch with you? I know you're not only a man of service in your business, but you've also kind of spun out an education platform. Why don't you help us tap in on where folks can again connect with you, and then
Yeah.
where can you tap in if we want to learn more about what you just shared with us today?
Yeah, so Legion Assisted Living Academy is where I have my educational platform, and then the assisted living community. It's where I have my community members who all are in the process and have already started facilities. You get to have me as your one-on-one mentor, so it's one of those opportunities where it's like, dude, this guy speaks my language. I love his vibe. I love everything he has to say. I love everything he's doing. Um, and the community has been great, man. It's been one of those things, even for me, that's given me a lot of fulfillment to see other wins, other
That's it.
individuals succeed. And it's become a really good place for my community members to come for emotional support too, because business is not easy. And it's become like we'll have our weekly calls, and they're like, Serge, I'm mentally going through this. Serge, I feel like this, or, how'd you deal with it? How'd you, what? And sometimes I'll even tell them, guys, I'm going through this. I'm feeling, you know what I mean? And
Yes, yes.
it's great to be able to have a support system like that
Yeah.
with the
And
community.
and and there's nothing like, a man like yourself who's not just talking the talk, but also walking the walk. I think that really
Yes.
matters with your mentor that you have. And I'll drop you a line that my one of my mentors, Dr. Myron Golden says, three C's of life that you need. You
Mm.
can't have, one of them without the other. If you get two out of three wrong, you won't find that happiness or fulfillment, right? Creation, connection, contribution,
Mm.
right? Once you got all three of those locked in, and that's what it is, it's fulfillment. I have a mastermind as well. When I see other people win and it is also integrated with their business, it just brings you joy. I tell my wife all the time, I'm just like, it just made me so happy that you see someone who maybe has a mental block or a limiting belief and breaks it through, and then it has also an impact, and that impact has a domino effect because we're in the service business, so it's helping out the family that they're helping, but it's also helping them. And like I said, you lead with that, dude. Like, how can you not win?
Yep.
uh Dude, mic drop, man. Listen, thank you so much. We'll definitely tap into Legion and the assisted living community that you got going on, man.
Yeah.
The best is yet to come. You're such a good dude, man. Such good energy, such positivity. I'm sending abundance your way, King.
Thanks,
And with
brother.
that said, Experiment Nation, just like that, we have here Serge is online, and now he is officially offline. Thank you, sir, for joining us. I
Awesome.
appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Ruben.
Experimentation, I believe there are two critical components that will help you achieve your goals very quickly and succeed. Number one, it's information like this that you received on a show, in an episode, and content that you can find on my YouTube channel or anybody's channel. And then there's a community. And the way we've been able to expedite our process, the way people in our community, who are people that we consult, mastermind members, whoever, they get the information on an episode like this, but then they also have a support, whether it's me guiding them or being guided through a community. There is an opportunity for you listening to be able to expedite your process or even expedite your results that you're seeking by being in part of the community. If that is what you're interested in, we at Experiment Nation happen to have a community devoted to helping maximize your occupancy and your profitability altogether, regardless of which market that you are in. And for that reason, you have an opportunity where you can go to experimentrealestate.com/submit if you're looking to work in an environment that can help you prosper faster. Call out any areas that you might not be familiar in, especially the blind spots. That's where a guide comes in hand, and I would be a pleasure and honor to be your guide. But in order to make sure you're a good fit, make sure you go to experimentrealestate.com/submit so that my team can go ahead and take it and see if you're a good fit to join the mastermind and the multiple programs that we have. In addition to that, I'm also now a YouTube partner, which means that I want to give you more access to information, more access to Q&As, more access to the questions that actually come out of our mastermind that help people expedite the process. We've seen people get anywhere from $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 to even $7,000 a month net on just one door by applying the strategies that we use by working with corporations and furnished accommodation in a very strategic way. So if you're interested, make sure you also subscribe, because I'm going to have different tiers that's on YouTube now that we've become YouTube partner to continue to be the bridge to your success in your lab. And your lab means your life, your goals, or wherever you're trying to head. So make sure you also hit the subscribe button on my YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/real estate experiment. We'll be there. You can also look us up at Midterm Rental Insurance Experiment. We will be there. Make sure you hit the subscribe, because that's when you'll know the tiers that are available to you that make sense for you, your marketplace, for your results. Remember, you're only one experiment away. Let's build.